Deploying the Elemental Insights extension is very simple. You can see here that I have the deploy button on the tile. I've just gone in and I have it here as well. So when I deploy the Elemental extension, it's just a case of simply hitting the deploy button. Now before I do that, I have to select which application and subsystem in which I'm interested. So in this case, I'll just select all applications and all subsystems. That's the easiest way for me to do it. Then I can just click deploy and it will tell me the various resources that are going to be created. And when I click deploy, it'll be rolled out. Now I have a different account where this has already been deployed, and I want to show you some of the points to make here. I think they're really, really important. So the first sort of thing that people ask when an extension is deployed is, where is all my data? Deploying an extension is essentially the initiating of the resources that generate the data. So I'll give you an example. We have events to so if you're unfamiliar with events to metrics, I recommend looking at the Getting to Know Coralogix course. But you can see a few key metrics here. CloudFront metrics, media tailor transcoding, IDR metrics. The media tailor transcoding will be one that's deployed by the extension. These metrics begin generation at the point of the extension deployment. So that means that when you do open up a dashboard that's based on these metrics, it will be empty for a little while. It'll take a minute or two for the data to be generating. So typically there's like a few minute latency for the metrics to start generating themselves. But then also you have to wait a little while simply for the data to populate. Now to make sure that everything is flowing okay, you can do something like lowering down the time range to see how that impacts the data. And you can also deploy new resources yourself just to better understand what everything's doing. So it's really, really important that you recognize just this key point. Deploying the extension is really straightforward and really simple, but the data will not be generated right away. That's something that you have to wait for, just a few minutes really, nothing major. But if you deploy the extension, better to get up a moment, let the system apply the changes, let the data begin generation, and then you'll be able to see everything that you want to see. Now, in the Elemental Insights, you'll see that there's these events metrics. So these are things that are generating the data, and you have alarms as well. Some of these alarms may take a few moments to kick in. Obviously, if they're dependent on the metrics, for example, then they need the data in order to trigger. If they're dependent on the logs, they will trigger a lot faster. So that's just something to keep in mind. Likewise, we can see the recording rules here. So the recording rules for this particular piece of functionality, this particular extension, are based off the events to metrics rules, as you can imagine. So you can take the transcoding lead time, for example, and this is actually based off, if you see that CX docs total, that's a dead ringer to indicate that something was generated by events to metrics. So if it's generated by events to metrics, by extension, the recording rule won't begin generating until the E2Ms, the events to metrics, have been generated as well. So when you're deploying an extension, give it a few moments for the system to deploy everything and let the dashboards begin to populate. After a few moments, you should see data flowing into each of the different widgets. If you see a widget without data, it can be for one or two reasons. One, there's some issue with the data that you're ingesting. There's maybe version incompatibilities between the logs that you've got and the extension version you've deployed, something to keep in mind there. The second thing is, if you see any errors with these widgets here that have monitoring on them, you may not have set up your S3 archive. If you haven't done that, Getting to Know Coralogix course, and you'll be able to dive into that as well. The other point to keep in mind, for example, this widget here is powered by transcode error events. It's possible you haven't got any. If you haven't got any, and the way to validate that, by the way, you can go and explore your logs directly. So in this particular case, I have nothing indexed. I switched to all logs. And now I'm viewing my unindexed logs. We'll see this interface more. And you can actually go and look for the unindexed logs themselves. So you can look for event type. You can look for filter, event type. And we're looking for transcode error. So just as an example there. This is actually going to run a direct query against the S3 bucket right now. But we can see we have transcode error. So if that widget's empty, you can always come and check if the data's there. So quick recap on some steps to take. Deploy the extension with a single click, select your application subsystems and do so. Wait a few moments for the data to begin generating, and then check the dashboards and query your data to look for any missing data or any data that's in an unexpected format. And remember, if after a few minutes data isn't flowing and you're not sure what's going on, this button down here is your best friend. This is the Coralogix support. You'll be able to access and speak with expert engineers in a median response time right now of 15 seconds and a median resolution time of well under an hour, meaning that whatever the problem you have, the chances are we can fix it either instantly or very, very quickly for you. And there's no cost per support ticket or even for the support package, so you can enjoy this as much as you want. So steps: deploy the extension, wait a few moments, validate your data's there, validate the data's in a sensible format, and if you can't work it out, always get into support and they'll be able to help you as well. That's just a quick rundown of what to expect in this extension in terms of loading times, data generation times, visualization times, and that kind of thing, and obviously the availability of the support in the Coralogix platform as well.